Where is all right. Chumash Rashi, Parshas, Tzav, the third reading. Here we are. Zois Teiras Zevach Hashlamim, and this is the Torah, the law of the slaughtering of the peace offering. Asher Yakriv La Hashem. It must be offered to God. Im al Toida Yakrivenu. No cream cheese, please, because we're going to have eggs, okay? Pesach, can you tell him, please, no cream cheese? Because we're going to have the eggs. Okay?
Did you see what I sent you?
I only started. Anyway, we're I don't know, look long.
Take you 3 minutes. You have an eggs.
Yeah, it's just
I always have cream cheese
okay.
separate from the eggs.
Well,
You making up new rules now?
yeah. Okay. So im al toida yakrivenu, if you're giving thanks. So it's a peace offering that's called giving thanks. Right, we'll explain what does that mean. Who's giving thanks? Hikriv al zevach hatoida. He should offer on the slaughtering of the Thanksgiving offering. Here, we're celebrating Thanksgiving right now. Chalas matzahs balula b'shemen. Unleavened loaves that are mixed with oil. Orikiki matzahs and flattened matzah meshuchim that are oiled, smeared with oil. B'shemen. Meshuchim means smeared, b'shemen with oil. The soilus beches and fine flour that is scalded. Chales loaves, fine flour that are scalded, belula b'shemen that are mixed with oil. Okay, we're in verse 12, Shimon Leib. Just okay. Im al if you're offering a Thanksgiving offering, im al davar hayda, meaning you're giving thanksgiving to God for what? Al nation asalei, for a miracle that happened to you, or delivered from a difficult situation. If you're going, for example, ayam, if you're going across the sea, holchim midbar, you're traveling in the desert, chavushe beisa surim, that you were confined in a prison and you were released from prison. The cholish and Israel, and a sick person who was healed. Those 4 things. That they must give thanks. She calls by him because the verse says, Where's that verse? That verse is in Tehillim, that you should give thanks to Hashem for his kindness, isn't in the wonders that he does for mankind. And you should slaughter a Thanksgiving offering. And this is it, right here. So if one of these things causes you that you need to pledge a Thanksgiving offering, right, a peace offering, they are called a peace offering of thanksgiving. And they require together with it bread, ha'amor which we just said in this verse. And it's eaten only by day and a night. In other words, that day and overnight. As it will be explained over here. We'll see. We're going to he's setting forth what's going to be said. Next Rashi, v'hikri v'zevach atayda, and you sacrifice the Thanksgiving offering. Arba mine lechem, these 4 varieties of bread. Chales, loaves. Rekikim are wafers. Revucha is the scalding of Shleishim mine matzah. 3 varieties of unleavened bread. Uksiv, and it's written also. this is in the next verse, and we'll continue. It says, Al chalas lechem chametz, with loaves of leavened bread. In other words, this is 3 unleavened and 1 leavened. Chol min v'min eser chalas, and each of the variety of the 4 is 10 loaves. Kach mefurish menachos, as explained in the Talmud. Vishiuram, and their total volume is chamesh sein Yishalmiyos, 5 se'in of Jerusalem. Shehein shisha midbariyos, that those are 16 that are used of what the Israelites used in the desert. Esrim isarin, Esrim isarin, 20 isarin, which is 10 ephahs. An ephah is 10. Just see 1 second. Yeah, okay. Trying to read. All right, so 10 loaves of each. Beches, scalding, lechem cholad bereischim, bread that is scalded in boiling water, kol tzarkai, its entirety, like fully scalded, right? Like making a bagel, right? Put in boiling water. 13, al chalis lechem, also has to bring challah, a loaf of lechem, of bread, chametz, it's chametz, right? Yakriv karbanai, he should offer his offering, al zevach teidas shlama, together with the feast offering of the Thanksgiving. Rashi in 13, Yakriv karbanai al zevach, so he's got to bring an offering with the sacrifice, right? We didn't speak about a sacrifice, right? It's just saying to bring a sacrifice. She'ena lechem kodesh kedushas haguf. The bread is not holy with an inherent holiness. The apostle b'yotze, to become invalid if you took it out of the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash, or by someone who comes in contact with it that was immersed that day, but the night did not come because you immersed during the day, but you become fully pure by nightfall. And let's say that person touched the bread, it doesn't become unholy. Or prohibiting from leaving it from in a state of holiness, which is non-holy through redemption. Until you offer this, and the sacrifice will be slaughtered. Others, until that time, so this is repeated over here. The fact that you're saying about bringing the offering as a sacrifice. Why is it repeated? Because it's coming to tell us that if someone that it's coming to tell us that the bread doesn't have inherent holiness and therefore does not become inherently unholy. It only becomes unholy once the sacrifice has been brought on the altar. Been slaughtered, rather, not on the altar, but been slaughtered. Then, if it was taken out of the courtyard, it becomes unholy. But until then, it's not unholy. Or if it was touched by someone who went to the mikveh that day, but nightfall did not come yet, so he's not completely pure. Got it?
So the bread becomes sanctified when he brings it because he's coming from outside of the bread. Right. So
I don't know if it's because no, it's not because it's coming outside, because it's done inside. But if it was taken outside before slaughtering, That's what we mean.
But what I mean is like he has to bring the person bringing the offering has to bring the bread from outside. So does it work? So does it get
Right. So, but I think it means after you made it into bread, which was on the inside,
Okay, right.
made it,
Yes, it's made into the
yeah,
okay.
some,
Okay. Because
Yeah.
it's called in the temple itself.
Right.
Okay. And this is
okay.
I'm gonna give it a next up to you.
Oh, he's giving out Sunday dollars? $14. Yikri mimenu echad mikol korban truma. He has to bring from each offering a truma, a contribution to Hashem, the korban LaHashem, because Adam Shlamim lo yeh, to the kohen that dashes the blood of the peace offering, he will have a share in it. Rashi in 14. Echa mikol korban, from each offering, lechem echa mikol min v'min. One bread from each variety, you told Truma, he should remove as a portion, for the kohen who does the service. Ashar, the rest of the bread, nechal l'baylim, are eaten by the owner. B'sara l'baylim, and the meat also goes to the owner, chutz michaz v'shoik sheba, except for the breast and the thigh. As is explained, lamata tnufa chaz v'shoik b'shlomi. That's what we will learn, because there's a waving that's done with the breast and the thigh that from the peace offering that belong to the kohen. So this is also called a peace offering, even though it's a Thanksgiving peace offering. And the Thanksgiving offering is called a peace offering. Exactly. Right. So therefore, that's the practice. Ubasar zevach tedas shlomov, and the flesh, the meat of the slaughtered Thanksgiving his peace offering. V'yom karbonai yeyachal, on the day of his offering, he should eat it. Lo yanich mimenu ad boker, and don't, amen, and don't leave it until the morning. Don't leave it until the morning. Basar zevach tedas shlomov. Rashi 15. So the meat, the flesh of the sacrifice of the Thanksgiving peace offering. Yeshkan Ribuyim Harbi. There's many inclusions over here. Larabis Chatis, to include also sin offering, but also and a guilt offering. Ve'el Nazir, and the ram of the Nazir. The Chagigas Arba Asar, and the festive offering on the 14th of Nisan, which is the Paschal Lamb offering. Shiyu and the Achalim, the day should all be eaten by day and by night. Aha, the wording could have been just his Thanksgiving offering, but the words are the flesh of his slaughtered Thanksgiving offerings, plural. So because of that, so Rashi is saying that the verse is coming to tell us more offerings that are also included in the fact that you can eat it by day and by night. Right, the night which follows, meaning throughout the night. Thank you. Next Rashi. Lo yanich mimenu ad boker. Oh, sorry. B'yom karbanon ye'echal, on the day that that day of its eating of the offering, Bizman Sarah, in the time of eating its meat, Zman Lachma, that's when you eat the bread too. In other words, it says when you're bringing your offering, you should eat. Because we have things, we have the sacrifice on the altar, right? And then we have also the four types of breads. So do the breads get included with this Thanksgiving offering that is also eaten only by day and that night? So Rashi says yes, because the word says, it doesn't say the meat should be eaten, it says the offering should be eaten. That means both the meat and the bread have to be eaten by day and that night. Okay? Next Rashi, last Rashi in 15. Don't leave any of it until the morning. But you can eat it the whole night. If so, then why do we say it until midnight? Now the Talmud says you can only eat it until midnight. Why? It says the whole until the morning. To distance a person from sin. Right? So I wrote a question over here last year, and I don't have the answer to it. That's a rabbinic law that you eat only till midnight until not until the morning. How does Rashi bring that in over here in the simple meaning of the text, right? The rabbinic law that, the sages didn't want you to eat until the morning because maybe you're going to leave it over. So only till midnight because, you're going to fall asleep and it's going to be left over. Okay. 16. Yeah.
Not midnight would vary depending on day to day.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Exactly. It's a Jewish midnight. Exactly. Hi. Okay. 16. Be'im neder. And if you took a vow, or a free will offering, zeva karbanai, a offering of a sacrifice, but yaim hakriv, on the day that you're bringing as a zivchai, his offering, mimalcharas, until tomorrow, b'naisa mimena yecha. So now we're talking about a different type, not a Thanksgiving offering, but you made a vow to bring, right? Or you dedicated something to bring. So the verse is saying that you can eat it on the day that he offers a sacrifice, and whatever's left over can be eaten on the next day. Not like the Thanksgiving offering. Like second. Not like the Thanksgiving offering. Thanksgiving offering can only be eaten until the morning. This can be eaten the next day too. Right? That's what the verse is saying. Can eat it until the next day. So 16 in Rashi. If the sacrifice is offering as a vow or a donation, you didn't bring it as a thanksgiving for that God brought salvation to you. So you don't need to bring any bread with it. And it's eaten for 2 days, as explained here. And the next day, what is left over from it, Barisha, on the first day, Ye'echal may be eaten. Whatever is left over can be eaten on the following day. Vivav zu, you say it here. The vav over here, it says, it says, and the leftovers. Why are you saying and? It didn't have to say the word and. There are many like that. Good. It's giving different examples of where we see that sometimes a verse adds the word vav, which means and. In other words, it's not, he's not giving an explanation why. Just saying sometimes the verse does that. Now, the leftover from the flesh of the animal, right, of the offering, of the sacrifice, on the third day, it has to be burnt in fire. In other words, that's already beyond the time. $18. If that's slaughtered, if the slaughterer now eats or has an intent, actually, as we'll see. It doesn't exactly say the words intent, but if your slaughterer had the intent that some of the flesh of this peace offering, that you had intent to eat it on the third day, the one who offers it, this is not accepted. You should not have this thought. Pigul, it will be called pigul. Pigul means contemptible. And the person who does eat from it on the third day, actually not even on the third day, that's what your thought was to do. You even ate it on the first day, but your thought was to eat it on the third day when you slaughtered. In other words, your thought is so relevant and so important, your mindfulness. As you had a wrong mindfulness to eat this offering on the third day, that alone makes it not acceptable to God. That alone. Rashi 18. If the person who eats it, the verse is speaking about someone who thinks merely at the time of slaughtering the sacrifice to eat it on the third day. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter why he thought it. Maybe the third day, it's his birthday, right? So you're gonna eat it then, or whatever other reason, doesn't matter. The very fact that he thought that, right? Yochel. So I might think, if he ate it on the third day, so it becomes invalid retroactively. And that's what the verse is saying, Talmud. But the verse says otherwise. The one who offers it should not have this intent, implying that it becomes invalid. Yeah, you're following it, guys. Hello, you're with us. Yeah, so at the time of offering, it becomes invalid because the verse says, shouldn't think of it. It doesn't become invalid on the third day, and others it becomes invalid immediately. That's what your thought was. And so it is understood that at the time of the offering, should not have a thought, right? Such a thought. And if you did have such a thought to be eaten on the third day, pigul, it becomes pigul. It's rejected. It's rejected. And the person who eats from it, even in the permissible time, in other words, on that day or on the second day, not even on the third day, you shall bear his sin. Okay. 19. The flesh of this peace offering that touches anything that is impure, should not eat it. But in fire it should be burned. It must be burned. With regard to flesh of a peace offering, anyone who is not ritually defiled may eat from the flesh. All right, anybody that's pure. Rashi in 19, V'abasar. Shel kodesh kodashim, lo yiga b'chol tamei lo ye'echal. So this is a holy peace offering that touches anything that is impure, should not be eaten. Shemeleib, we're on verse 19, okay? V'abasar, and the flesh that's not impure, the rabbi is Eva Shiyotza Miktsasi, that a limb that has gone outside of the holy area that was needed to be eaten in the holy area, Shapni Mimutar, that the inner part is still permitted. Now, there's part of it is out, part of it is inside. It's still permitted. Kol Torah Yechal Basar, any pure person may eat the flesh. Matam Leimar, why does it say any person can eat this? Fish Nemar. I mean, what would you think? Of course, a pure person can eat from this offering. So why is it saying this? Because it says the blood of your offering should be poured on the altar, and the flesh you shall eat. So you might think that the only person that can eat the peace offering is the one who brings it, the owner. That's why it's called Torah. Any pure person can eat from the flesh. So you got that? And this is unique. A peace offering is unique, that any person can eat from it if they're pure. You don't, right? A sin offering, not that way. Right? Only the kohen eats from it. In other offerings, it's only the one who brings it. But a peace offering is anybody that's pure can eat from it. But the flesh of any pure person may eat flesh. Kalaimar, kol anything that I've made forbidden for you, regarding a sin offering or guilt offering, that if you went outside of the curtains of the courtyard of the tent of meeting, they become forbidden, as it says in the verse, they can only eat it in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. Says regarding this flesh, meaning of the peace offering, right? I say to you, kol tar yechal basar, any pure person can eat from it. Afila b'chol ha'ir, meaning in the entire city. So in the entire walled city of Jerusalem, in the base of Mikdash, not only the courtyard. That's something unique by the Korban Shlomim. Got that? That's unique. Okay, l'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. Okay, verse 20. And the person who eats from the flesh of this peace offering, right? Asher la Hashem, that is for the sake of God, the tumasa elav, and this person is impure, ritually impure, right? This person will be cut off from his people, right? That means early death. It's called kares, right? Premature death. Rashi, tumasa alav, this person is impure. Tumasa gufa kasamidaber. We're speaking about a ritual impurity of the body. And when one is eating, and we're not talking about the object that you're eating, that we're talking about the person is impure. But a pure person who ate something that's impure, in other words, an offering that became impure, there is no punishment of being cut off, but only a negative commandment, you're not allowed to do it. As the verse said previously, right? The flesh that touches anything that's impure, atzara tame, it's a Torah. The negative commandment against one who is impure eating an offering that is pure. And a mefurish b'Torah is not explicitly mentioned in the Torah. In other words, there's two things the Torah has to tell us. It has to give us what's called an azara, which is a forewarning that makes it a prohibition, right? Makes it one of the 365 prohibitions of the Torah. And then there's the Torah tells us what the punishment is, what the consequence of it is. So here, all we have is the consequence that if you're impure and you ate something pure from the temple sacrifice, that you'll be cut off. But it doesn't tell us anywhere the warning not to do it. And the Chachamim lamdua, but they say they learn it from what's called Gzeir Shava. In other words, it's not explicitly learned out. Okay. Shalosh krisis amuris ba'ich leikachim v'tumas haguf. There are 3 premature deaths with regard to those who eat that which is holy while they're in a state of ritual impurity, right? That their body. And the sages, they expound upon it in the Talmud Shavuos. Achas liklal, one is for generality. Achas l'prat, one is for specific. Achas l'mam l'korban v'yoreh, one to teach us about the ascending and descending offering. Shloi nemer elam betumas mikdash kadosha. That it was said, that the Torah said that it must be brought only for causing impurity in the base of Mikdash and its holies. I'm not clear on the details there. Okay, let's continue. 21. And a person should not touch anything that's impure, betumas adam, whether it's a human corpse, or a behema, or an animal that is a tmeya, that is impure, ritually impure, or b'chol sheketz tame, or for any creepy crawling, loathsome crawling that is impure. So in other words, here now we're not talking about the person who is impure that ate something, right? But now we're talking a person that touches something that is impure, right? Like a corpse, like a carcass of an animal. So you became now impure. So here it's telling us the prohibition of becoming impure, that you will be. In other words, it's giving us the parameter of what means impurity. Impurity means you touched a corpse, you touched a carcass of an animal, right? You become spiritually defiled. And then you ate from, right, the offering. Okay, we're finished with that. And Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Daber Bnei Israel, speak to the children of Israel, Lamor, saying, you're not allowed to eat any fat from a bull, from a sheep, or a goat. 24, and the fat of a nevela means a carcass of an animal that died. And the fat of an animal that was diseased, had a fatal disease. Yeyaseh l'chol malacha. that you do for any kind of work, and you ate it, but you must not eat it. 1 second. Okay, you must not eat it. It's a funny way it's worded. Let's see Rashi. He's going to pick up on it. 24 in Rashi. So it was put to any use. That comes to teach us about forbidden fat. That it does not transmit the impurity of an unslaughtered carcass. Aha. In other words, what does it mean that you put it to work? In other words, you're not allowed to eat this fat, but you can have benefit from it. That's what it means. The transgression is only in eating the fat, right? As opposed to, a carcass makes you be impure, right? You can't eat a carcass, but you can't even touch it. I mean, you can touch it, you just become impure, right? And therefore you can't eat then something impurity, right? An offering that's impurity. Okay. Now the verse says, eat, but you shall not eat. Funny term. The Torah says, let the prohibition against eating an unslaughtered carcass and a mauled animal come, and take effect in addition to the prohibition of the forbidden fat. That if you ate the fat of an unslaughtered carcass or a mauled animal, he's chayiv that you'll be culpable of Allah shel nevela, also on the negative commandment of an unslaughtered carcass. And do not say, and don't say, Ein Isra Chalal that a prohibition does not take effect on a pre-existing prohibition. There's a general principle that if there's a prohibition, so we don't put a one prohibition on a pre-existing prohibition. So there's a prohibition against eating forbidden fat, right? Even from an animal that's properly slaughtered, right? The forbidden fat is still not permitted. So our verse is specifically of an animal that died without slaughter and mauled, right? To teach us that there is a prohibition of eating a carcass of an animal that died, or a mauled animal, take effect the forbidden fat of the animal, even though there's a pre-existing prohibition. Right, so there is one prohibition on another. That's the point over here. Right.
So do you take the greater prohibition then?
No, it means two prohibitions. If you ate the fat of an animal that was a kosher animal, but it was mauled, wasn't slaughtered, right? So you can't eat, it's a kosher animal, you can't eat the fat anyways. If it was even slaughtered properly, you couldn't eat that fat, the fat of the animal, right? Certain fats, right? So, but here, it wasn't slaughtered. So you can't eat it. So if you ate it, that fat of that animal, it's two prohibitions.
Oh.
That's the point.
Okay, right.
Even though generally we say that two prohibitions don't fall one on the other. If there's a prohibition already, so a second prohibition is not adding anything, unless it's adding in that it's a stricter prohibition, right, or more consequential punishment. But if it's not, so then it's a prohibition upon a prohibition. But here the Torah does say that because it says, "Eat, you shall not eat it." Why is it saying that? Obviously, you can't eat it. It's forbidden fats even if it was slaughtered properly. So why is it saying that? To tell you that there is a second prohibition. That's the point. Because you should not eat the fats of an animal that you offer from it that it was is a fire offering to God. And that person will be cut off from who eats it from his people. And the blood also don't eat. In all of your dwellings, for fowl and mammals. Mammals. Okay, animals. Say. Okay, Rashi, in all of your because this is a duty of the body, an obligation falls on the individual, irrespective of his location. But in a karka, it's not a duty that's in the land, bound by the land of Israel. Some laws are by the land of Israel, but this is not. That's what it means in all of your dwellings. Why do I say all of your dwellings? Well, I have to say that because some laws, like tithing, is only a biblical law in the land of Israel, for example, right? This law is in all of your dwellings, meaning in Montreal too. Okay? Yeah, exactly. Is not a duty that's bound to the land of Israel, but it applies in all dwellings of a Masechus Kedushin, of a Perigrisha, of a Shalama, Utzra. Okay, for the fowl and the animals, dam dogim, to the exclusion of the blood of the fish, v'chagavim, and of kosher grasshoppers. And any person who will eat any blood will be cut off from its people. Okay, we're going to stop here. It's starting a new Vayidaber. Okay. So we're going to go to Tanya. Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you.